All right, let's continue for the back half of the show here quickly. We do our usual questions of the week. These are just quick fire questions that we'll ask. This is not on the draft. We're going to talk about some guys that are prospects in the NHL, been drafted already, starting with a guy we've talked about a lot on this show, Wyatt Johnston. Oh my gosh, he won the Eddie Powers Trophy, most points, and isn't stopping in the playoffs. He got 23 points in 11 games. My gosh, here, Brock, how great of a pick is this for the Dallas Stars? I mean, what type of upside does this guy have?
Yeah, and admittedly, I didn't really see this kind of upside. We were a little bit lower on him at McKeen's, and I think that he was somebody who was very, very difficult to sort of gain an appreciation for last year with the hiatus, and then having sort of played that more of a depth role on that really strong U18 teams. And I think that he was somebody that as the draft got closer, there was certainly the interest was coming out from some people saying that this was somebody to watch in the first round because NHL teams were very interested in sort of that projectable skill set and some of those physical tools that he had. And I think that he's improved in every sort of facet this year. I think he looks more explosive as a skater, looks way more confident handling the puck. He's still a very strong two-way player and somebody who can, find success playing through traffic, which is obviously incredibly important in terms of becoming an NHL player. And I think that now, rather than at the draft when we were discussing, is Wyatt Johnson going to be able to be a top six player? Is he more of like a bottom six guy? Now I think the shift needs to be, is Wyatt Johnson going to be in the NHL next year?
Yeah.
I think that things have, changed that dramatically. And I mean, as somebody who covers the OHL, I think it's fantastic to see. And I'm all right being wrong on Johnston and not really seeing this kind of potential that we're seeing currently.
Yeah, he's sure impressed. My gosh, like I said, he's got the most points, and he's just not slowing down the playoffs. Devin, you've talked about Johnston quite a bit on this show. I know you've had him as a prospect of the week. What do you like? I mean, as much as whatever you've said already, what do you like about him, and how great of a pick is this for the Stars?
Well, I think the ultimate thing is just what the Stars got versus where they got him. Obviously a first round pick, but it wasn't like a top 10 pick or anything like that. If you can get a player that looks this good and looks like he could be a franchise cornerstone outside of the top 15 picks, you hit a home run. And that's what you aim to do if you're picking, outside of the lottery picks. Johnston's just, to kind of just pile on here, he's just surprised. Surprise a lot of people. He's proved that he can produce consistently. He can produce in a number of ways. He can produce when when pressure is high. He can produce when there's no pressure. There's no I can't think of the word right now, but it's not like he takes games off. Mm-hmm. He's a player that he plays a projectable game. I'm going to keep using that word. And you look at the Dallas Stars lineup, and I know this is something that I kind of mentioned last week, but you can see how they have a need for centers now in their team. And, Rupe Hintz is good. Tyler Seguin's pretty good too. Not as good as he once was, but you add Wyatt Johnson to that lineup, and it's probably going to be a jolt to that team. Yeah. And, you add Logan Stankoven and others as well. Dallas, like we've been saying for a couple of weeks now, look out for the Stars because they are good right now, but they're not going away anytime soon.
Yeah, what a 1-2 punch those two are going to be. Peter, I mean, I'm pretty sure you had a prospect of the week for Johnston too. I think we all have had him at one point,
at least once.
Yeah. How good of a pick is this for the Stars? I mean, like I said, it could be Tyler Seguin, Jamie Benn duo again here with Stankoven and Johnston.
Yeah, I had him as sort of like a late second kind of thing, but it wouldn't have surprised me if he bumped up because of his play. And even though, again, as Brock alluded to, it wasn't a defensive or in a depth role for Team Canada, he was still very effective. I mean, he was still very smart with his reads in the offensive zone and even within his own zone. So I think those are changing of the guard with the Dallas Stars. I mean, Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin, as Devin alluded to, are, they're still good, but they're nearing the end of their career. They're at the tail end. So you got a decent. You got a very, very strong centerman in Wyatt Johnson right now. And you got the great depth on the wing and Logan Stankoven. So he's just one of the key cogs for the future right now. And it wouldn't surprise me if he's going to be a captain. I was a center. He is going to be a center. He's going to be a captain down the line for the Dallas Stars, because he's got great leadership qualities. He can take control of a game, and he just has that will to win. And it's showing right now in the playoffs, and it's going to show in the future.
Yeah, I'm not going to say much more about Johnston. I think everyone's kind of covered what I think about him too. So let's move on to another guy, Mason McTavish, who he impressed in the NHL right away. He scored his first NHL goal, got sent down to the Bulldogs. But, I mean, despite playing, not to sent down to the Bulldogs, he was traded to the Bulldogs. He was on the Peterborough Peeps before. But despite playing at so many different levels this season, is it safe to say he's going to be on the Ducks this next season? Devin, what do you think about McTavish? Isn't he a full-time NHL player next year?
I think so. I think that when you have a player make, that little 9-game stint, especially as an 18-year-old, and they're relatively successful during that stint, I think you can only go up. I would be surprised if he was off the Ducks lineup next year. I'll just put it that way. This is a player that I know when we did our little site-wide mock draft last year, that's who I picked at 6th overall for the Red Wings. He's very, very good player, very good size, plays an NHL game. That's what I would describe it. He plays an NHL game. And he's playing it at the OHL level. So I'm not saying he's going to come in and tear the league apart, the NHL apart next year, but I think he's already playing an NHL caliber game. So I definitely expect him to be playing a role for the Anaheim Ducks next year. As to where, probably not first line, maybe not even second line, but third line. I think that's very much doable.
Yeah. Well, look into the future here. Trevor Zegras, Mason McTavish, 1-2 punch.
Fun.
Oh my.
Yeah. With a 10th overall pick coming.
Not looking forward to it. Brock, what did you think about Mason McTavish in the OHL this year? And does he make the Ducks next season full time?
Oh yeah, I think unquestionably. I think the really interesting thing is you mentioned the whole Zegras McTavish 1-2 combo. And I think what makes that such an interesting combo for the Ducks is that they couldn't be more opposite in terms of their effectiveness and how they play the game, right? So that honestly, I think that has a chance to be the best 1-2 punch down the middle in the NHL. When we look at this in maybe 5 or 6 years, I think that those two are just two fantastic play drivers in two different sort of ways. I think the big thing with McTavish is the improvement in his skating the last calendar year. I think that he's gone from being sort of like an average mover, not something that was, a major concern or anything like that, but something that did have some room for improvement. And he's now one of the, better skaters in the OHL. I think that his confidence on his edges has made him more of like an east-west attacker as opposed to just sort of that straight line linear force trying to barrel his way through the net. Now he's sort of playing through checks, playing around checks. He's just really an unstoppable force. And I think that a lot of that has to do with the improvement that he's made to his skating. And I think that that's going to play extremely well immediately at the NHL level. And I think that if I were to make sort of a preseason list for Calder candidates next year, McTavish would be right up to the top.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking at Ryan Getzlaf just retired, and now they got another guy coming in. Similar player. So they're not going to really miss a beat losing him. Peter, what do you think about McTavish? I mean, what's said already? I mean, is he going to be on the Ducks next season? How much of an impact could he make on that team?
Yeah. Again, he's got to be up for the Rookie of the Year award already. I mean, early favorites kind of thing, so to speak, at least top 3, because he's going to be a fantastic player. He plays that power forward game, plays like an NHLer, looks like an NHLer, has a mentality like an NHLer. I guess you can see where I'm going with this. He's going to be in the NHL next year.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's playing in the, what is he playing? The under 18s. He didn't look like he was a 30-year-old or something.
Yeah.
So what the heck are you playing?
And also time at the Olympics also helped out too.
Yeah.
So
he played everywhere.
It just prepares him even more.
NHL, AHL, World Juniors. What was it? I'm missing one. Oh, the Olympics. Like
Yeah.
just pick a league. He played in it.
Yeah.
It's just him playing the dub or the Q. But yeah, he's going to be a heck of a player in the NHL. And he already showed it this year in those 9 games. He looked already NHL ready. So it's going to be fun to watch him next year. As long as he just doesn't do anything against the Canucks, I'm good to go. All right, let's finish this off with a question that, everyone's on their mind when usually guys get drafted. Will they play in the NHL right away? Other than Shane Wright, which obviously that's probably someone that could potentially do that.
Yeah.
What other guy from OHL prospect that could be in the NHL next year? I mean, we saw Cole Sillinger do it didn't come out of the OHL, but he came out and played right away. No one expected it. So Peter, we'll start with you on this one. Who do you think could potentially do that and be in the NHL next year?
I'm going to say Owen Beck, mainly because of that. He already has that mentality. He already has the IQ, the awareness. Obviously, he plays a quicker game and it's already kind of like the trends. Yeah, I can't even speak properly right now. Sorry about that. He plays a quick game and it's already at that pace where it's going to translate to the NHL. I mean, it's quick, it's fast already. Beck fits that description of what you want, especially in the centerman. Obviously, whether he gets that 9-game tryout remains to be seen, but if he can at least get maybe 1 or 2 games in to try and just get a feel for it, because he does look like a pro. He plays like one. I think he has the foundation to try and not necessarily push for a spot, but make a name for himself early on, because the whole entire package is right there for him.
Yeah. But again, it'll depend on who drafts them and if there's space. If they can actually have a chance at it, right? Brock, is there anyone in this draft class from the OHL that could potentially make it in the NHL next year, other than Shane Wright, of course?
Am I allowed to say nobody?
Yeah.
You can say nobody. You can definitely say nobody.
Look, honestly, I don't even think Shane Wright is a lock to play in the NHL next year. I really don't. I think that, I think there's a lot of things for him to work on. And I know that his work ethic is incredible. I know that from speaking to people that are close to him. And I think that he's going to do everything he can to make the NHL next year. But I do think that there's an opportunity for him to return to junior and continue to possibly sort of dominate the OHL in a way that maybe people expected him to this year. If we're looking at somebody who maybe gets a cup of tea, maybe 2 or 3 games before they get sent back, one name that I'll throw out is Danny Zilkin. I'm not as high maybe as other people are on him, but when you look at sort of his birthday as a late born 03, he's got size, he's got speed, he plays with power. He's pretty strong at both ends of the ice. I think that there's a chance that, if somebody is hurting down the middle that drafts him in, say, that top 50 range, I think that they might look at possibly using him in that sort of 3rd or 4th line role early in the year, just to see what he sort of looks like before maybe sending him back to junior. I think that when we think about sort of pro-ready prospects, both in terms of body, mentality, I think Zilkin is probably somebody from the OHL that would be near the top. And I don't know if that's because his upside maybe isn't the highest, at least in my opinion, but behind Shane Wright, honestly, he's the one that sort of jumps out as somebody who could maybe make, a minimal impact, before the ELC sort of kicks in.
Yeah, well, I'm on the same boat. I don't think there's anyone that's really a lock to be in the NHL next year. When I saw the question Peter put out, I'm like, I don't really have anyone. Because it's Shane Wright. Like, if you look at Owen Power last year, everyone's like, oh, he's gonna make. No, he goes back to Michigan, dominates there, and now he's going to be in the NHL next year. And Benier, same thing. So I mean, he wasn't first overall, but he was, thought maybe he played in the NHL. So it's not bad for a first overall pick to not play in the NHL the first year. Like, everyone says, oh, that's a failure in your first overall pick that he doesn't play right away. It's not. So who haven't I gone to? Devin, who do you think could potentially be a guy that could play in the NHL next year from this draft class in the OHL?
Yeah, now that you and Brock have both said it, I feel like I'm not cheating by saying nobody. But but I wouldn't count out both Beck and Bell Baluz as having, maybe getting that cup of tea, maybe a 9-game little audition thing. And there is a part of me that would love to see Mintukov surprise people and maybe at least get that cup of tea. But realistically, if we're putting money down on it, there's nobody that like really screams, I could be NHL ready. So yeah, easy answer is nobody, but keep an eye out because there's always at least one player that comes out of nowhere and is like, oh, okay, they're NHL ready. JJ Mosier or whatever his name is in Arizona. And even like Ryan O'Reilly in his draft year, nobody really thought he was going to be a first year NHL player, but it happens.
Yeah. Well, Cole Sillinger is another one, like I mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, basically,
I didn't expect that at all. Like, I didn't think he was going to play a full NHL season, and he didn't look bad either. He looked pretty good. So, you never know. You never know what guys are. And again, depends on the team they're drafted by too, because that give them the opportunity. And
so much of it is circumstantial, right? Like, let's give the Arizona Coyotes as an example, right?
Yeah.
I'll throw a name at you. What about Lucas Edmonds, right? The oldest player eligible this year. He's got an extra year because of the fact that he's considered under European eligibility. If the Arizona drafts him, is he somebody that they look at maybe right away? There's a name sort of outside the box thinking. If a team like, say, Colorado drafts Lucas Edmonds, he's not going to see the NHL next year. But if it's the Arizona Coyotes, who are sort of desperate for high-end offensive talent, maybe they look at him at least to start the year. And like you said, it's very circumstantial. It depends on where they go, and it's a very hard thing to sort of predict.
Yeah, that's right. So we will see. Is another phrase we use a lot here. Let's finish off this episode with our prospects of the week, which we usually do on this show to close it off. Brock, who do you want to highlight? Does not have to be an NHL prospect. It can be a draft prospect, it can be any prospect you want to highlight in this episode here.
Yeah, you know what? When I saw that this is something that we were going to be talking about, the one name that really jumped off the page for me and would be Mitchell Russell in North Bay. Just signed his ELC with San Jose as a free agent. Has been one of the better players in the OHL playoffs so far for North Bay, helping them reach the Eastern Conference Finals, which I don't think they have a chance of winning. Sorry, North Bay fans. Hamilton's just too good. But Russell has played very, very well this year. He's been one of the most improved players in the league, and he definitely earned that ELC. I don't know what the sort of NHL potential for him is going to be. He's a pretty solid goal scorer, very, very well-rounded profile as a player. Doesn't really do anything extraordinary. Doesn't really do anything poorly. But San Jose has done a good job pulling some of these types of players out of the CHL in terms of signing overagers. And I think he's somebody who deserves to be mentioned. I think it's great to see that his strong year and his play lately, especially in the playoffs, is going noticed.
Yeah, that's a great guy to highlight for sure. Devin, who is your prospect of the week? And this is a name that's we've mentioned already on the show, and he's been really good.
Yeah. Playing out in your neck of the woods, Matt, that is Fabian Lysell playing for the Vancouver Giants. This is a player, I mean, like you said, his name's been on the show plenty of times, especially around that 2021 draft, because I know that my co-hosts on this show were big fans of his. Fabian Lysell is a player that kind of got overlooked. I don't want to say overlooked because he was a first round pick last year, but maybe a little bit underrated. He did go 21st to the Boston Bruins. And by, for my money, I think that was quite the value pick for the Boston Bruins in last year's team, talking about how I took McTavish at 6th. You, Matt, took Fabian Lysell at 9th. Yeah. And I liked that pick then. And I think that there are a few teams that picked, before Boston at 21 who probably would have, if they had a redo, might have taken Lysell because Lysell's done nothing but produce this year. 62 points in 53 games in the regular season, and he's followed it up with 21 points in the playoffs in 12 games. Lysell's just one of those players that has skill and he has confidence. Yeah. And when you have those two together, that is lethal. And, you're seeing what the product of that is in Lysel's season this year. For a team like Boston, that obviously is getting real close to a transition period with Bergeron and Marchand kind of entering the twilight of their careers. Bergeron might not even be back. It is nice to know that you've already got Pasternak, you've already got McAvoy, and you've got this kid named Fabian Lysell coming up, so they can realistically reload in a short amount of time if they have to. And just to kind of close out that thought, I think Lysell is easily the best prospect that the Bruins have had since they took McAvoy in the first round in 2016.
Oh, yeah.
So good on them for taking this kid who I don't think should have dropped as far as 21.
There was a lot of talk. I know we talked in one episode about why he's been talked about being dropped into that range, because there's a whole bunch of things about him, that his, attitude and stuff like that. So, but I mean, he's on the Giants. He's been really good. And I have an outside hope that the Canucks can get him, trade JT Miller to Boston and get like, probably not going to happen, but I'll hold out hope, because there was talk about it. So, Peter, who is your prospect of the week?
There's always that kind of move in some sort of alternate multiverse kind of thing. So in another universe, that does happen. We talked about him previously before. I'm going to go with Cole Sillinger. And obviously, he already has the advantage being a rookie, playing the season, looking really good with the Columbus Blue Jackets. But even so much so, the way that he's playing at the World Hockey Championships, he's only got 2 goals, but the overall playing impact that he's having with his shot, with his offensive awareness, and to gain the zone time with a lot of quality NHLers, despite only turning, I believe he's 19 at the moment. His birthday was just a couple of days ago, and he was at the tournament as an 18-year-old. Very impressive for what he was able to do. Looking at this tournament, also with Ken Johnston, another shout out to him kind of thing. Looked real. He just doesn't look out of place. If we thought he didn't look out of place there, he doesn't look out of place here, and he's going to continue to build off his strong season with this tournament. So shout out to Cole Sillinger.
Yeah, he's been so impressive. Like I said, in the NHL and now at the World Championships, he's been really good. So that's a great shout out to Cole Sillinger, because he's going to be a big part of the Blue Jackets moving forward, especially with their lack of center depth, whatever they draft in this draft. I mean, they may add to that, but Sillinger is definitely a big part of that top 6 moving forward. All right, I'm going to go to the Vancouver Giants again here and talk about an undrafted prospect, Adam Hall. He didn't score much during the regular season. He had 10 goals in the playoffs, so he was scoring a lot and getting rid of the Everett Silvertips in the first round, which wasn't expected. He was a big part of that. And then even pushing the Kamloops Blazers in that other series that, they lost 4-2 in that series, but he was scoring again and won 2 games. So, I mean, the Giants were really impressive, and he was a big part of that with Lysell, with Ostapchuk. I mean, all those guys were really impressive for the Giants. They're probably hoping they did a bit more of that in the regular season, Hall especially, and they may have had a better chance at a higher seed in that regular season. So, but Hall undrafted, he may have some interest from NHL teams now that after that playoff performance. So we'll see where that goes. But he sure turned into a goal scorer in the playoffs. So Adam Hall is my prospect of the week there. All right, there's another episode, a bit of a long one, but lots of great prospect talk, as we always do here. Thanks, Brock, for coming on the show and talking prospects. It was really great to have you on and, sharing knowledge on OHL prospects. So definitely welcome to come on again in the future once we get these guys drafted, see where they go. So thanks, Brock, for coming on.
Yeah, my pleasure. Anytime.
All right. And of course, thanks to Peter and Devin for joining on our prospect talk we do every week. And we'll keep going here as the draft gets closer and closer, because it's less than 2 months away. We're actually closing in on a month. So lots of stuff coming up on the Hockey Writers. Draft profiles are shooting out every day. We got the mock draft coming for writers that are going to do a mock draft in the next few days. So look out for that article coming. Lots of fun stuff coming up. So thanks for watching, and we will see you next time on the Prospect Corner.